there.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, no.
So for next questions, I must say about the color and roller color. You know that you use the colors like the phantasmagorious sense of one object, the street, urban space, buildings, or everything else. Like the painting, I know one of your PowerPoint of your sketches is the using the color. So how it's possible to showing the role of color in your sketches. You use the color about the 60% or something 70% of your works. How do you explain that about the importance of the role of color?
I think it's because the way I set up my sketches, which is I build a framework of the structure. So, and that's what you saw when you had this little line drawing that I built up of one of the longer movies with a very funny sound because it was sped up and you hear the music sped up in that as well. But what you see there is I build a framework in line, but already there I try to consciously leave enough room for the color. And what I maybe I'll switch back. I can still talk, but I switch back to this drawing that I had on the computer now. What you see when I bought these colors, I just grabbed something. I was in an art store and I thought, okay, I'm going to make a decision. I want to sketch again. Let's buy a sketchbook, and I bought one of these. There's still two here for when I run out fast. I bought this specific sketchbook, which I didn't know back then. I just saw that that one was there, so I took that one. I bought a couple of these because I knew, okay, I need paper, I need some fine liners for my black lines, and I need some colors. And that's what I bought. I did not know how they would work together, because marker paper is very distinct, and I did not buy marker paper. This was just a very heavy sketching paper, but not for markers, because I'll show you that what on every other page I can only use one side because the other one immediately bleeds through, and it's totally useless. So from a point of view of that, I made a very conscious choice. I didn't. I just bought some stuff. I bought black stuff for my lines. I bought some colored stuff to maybe start doing something in color, and from that point I started. And when I use these markers, they have a broad, let's pick one. They have, let's see, it's hard. There it is. Hard to film and let's see where it is. They have a sharp point, and if I turn this around, where is it? They have this very broad chisel point. I hardly ever use this one because the lines are too fine. But when I was still in art school, I did watercolor. And since I didn't know, okay, how shall I use these markers? I just started, okay, let's do something with them and see what happens. And that gradually turned out to be the way that I do it now. And one of the things that I really like to do is not like, okay, I have this plane, let's fill this very nicely and between the lines and fill it all up with one color. I make a mark and stop, and I don't touch it anymore. Like here, these gaps, which are basically just, if you want to put it that way, the places where I forgot or where I missed the paper, they add to the character of such a plane, because you can interpret it as light or light streaks that go across. The limitations of the material or the character of the material, I want to leave that, give that room as well to express itself. And that's what you see here all over the place. I touch and go. And that's the role that I think that I use with my colors. And from when you saw this very first one, just because it's so horrible if I see it now, but I'm proud to show it, because I get many people that say, I can't do it. I cannot do it. And I say, yes, sure you can. You just have to start and stick with it. Do it over and over and over again. Everybody can get better. And that's why it's always a good way to show this one, because this is where I was 4 years ago, and I didn't have any idea what to do with it. And here you see that I use very, very bright colors. And what you see in my sketches, more recent sketches, I use things like, let's see, tone on tone. So you can make mixed colors by using different ones on top of each other, because ink is very transparent. So you can layer it on top of each other, just like you can do with watercolors. I get a lot like, oh, it looks like watercolor. Yes, because I use it. It's a transparent medium. You can use it as watercolor. But the colors are much more subtle. They're not like really, in this case, I wanted, because the boat was red. So I used not really a totally bright red, but something which is still very saturated in color. But the rest is not. Because if you would do everything very saturated, it would blow up. So it is still a learning process to work with color. But when I have the framework of my lines, I want to have a lot of freedom in how I apply the colors. And the same here, like, okay, I know that the sky is not like these blue lines, but if I would totally fill this in and very patiently, yeah, it would take a lot of time, but all the characters going. You cannot see my hand in it anymore if I make this a completely blue plane. And here this way, because we're talking about calligraphy earlier, sometimes I want my skies to have a really calligraphic move and character to it.
I got that. I got that you have the talent, like unconscious, rendering of the color, using the color, and it depends on your talent. And you said all of guys must repeat and repeat and repeat and qualify their sketches, and it's important thing about the students. So for the last one, we have the questions about urban sketches more than. I must select some of them from my students and audiences also. I will read it for you. One of our guys asked this: can you please give us some tips on avoiding scale errors at the start? He said about the proportions, how we can fix the proportions, and how I have a tiny question about do you use the matrix, like the 5 matrix, like the proportions, golden rectangles, on anything else in your sketches?
No.
No.
Maybe
because no, Albert, because I am a structure guy and you are. Yeah. These are the differences between the styles, my style and your style is
no, I think it's good to know, because there are a couple of things. When you look at a sketch, I'll pick the one that I have on my computer display right now. You can look it up on Instagram, because Brian also has a photograph of this piece. You will see that the proportions are not correct. but for me, the proportions are just, it depends on what you're, what you're making the picture for. If it has
Yeah.
to be an accurate, for instance, if it has to be in a brochure that somebody needs to make a decision on, will I buy this house, or where, then it has to be very accurate, accurate representation of what you are finally going to buy, live in. But for me, it's not important. And
So
I hope
how you do this? How have you set it in the proportions?
you can see it in the movie that you see, where I build up from lines, looking very
This one.
fast, that one, and just see where I end up. There's also lots of mistakes in that one, but the point I want to make there is, if
So
you
it's
need to,
changed to it's changed to about the talent. It's a talent about you that you set the proportions, or there's no problem about the proportions. But I know it's related to your artistic character. You know, you have the artistic lines and the artistic character in sketch. And I think the question is clear about this point that you're starting without any proportions, because, for example, one of our famous urban sketches like Stephen Travers, I hope we have the interview the next days. He set the proportion at first, and after that underdraw, and after that the draw things, and much and add the details and anything else. And I think your style is so complex and it's hard to understanding what is the starting point and how you set the proportions in an accurate, I know most accurate boxes, frames, or anything else. And I believe that if we will qualify our quality of urban sketches to your styles, is so hard. So we separate this from the logical questions. So the another question is, they one guy say about your markers, the brands that you use in your styles. Also, can you tell us about your markers and how many of them that you use usually in your tasks?
okay, markers, I have two brands, because that was basically also when what I told you, when I went to the art shop, they were right in that corner and I could grab them. So that's why I bought these markers. But
Close.
they are two brands. I'll switch the camera around again, and you see them here in the box. The first one is, let's see, it's Winsor and Newton, and they're called Pro markers. You have two different brands. You have a Pro marker, which has a hard, really very hard. Where is my tip? Where's the camera? There. It's a very hard tip. And you have Winsor and Newton brush markers, and brush markers are having, what the name implies, they have a soft tip, but they're more expensive. And I don't use the soft tip, so that's why I don't bother buying them. But so the one brand is Winsor and Newton, and the other brand is, where is it? Copic.
Topic, yeah.
That's awesome. And the advantage of these, they are square. That's not an advantage that they are square, but they are recognizable by that. But the advantage of these ones is that you can refill them.
Yeah.
Usually when I have a color that I see, okay, I'm going to use this a lot, I already buy a refill tank. You can refill them like maybe 8 to 10 times with one of these. So, and that at least saves a lot of plastic, because I keep, these are the ones that I sketch with every day. And when they are almost finished, they end up in this corner. These are all almost dried out. but these are all Winsor and Newtons, and that's because you have to throw them away after if they're dried out, or if there's no ink in them left. You have to throw them away, which is a shame. But both Winsor and Newton and Copic have some very nice colors. This one is the dark green that I use a lot, and that's from Copic. Let's see what this marine green. This one, this yellow one, is one that I use a lot. This red one, which is a very reddish light brown, and it's probably
so
the color. That's the color there. These are very subtle colors, and this is the area that I use most. And here I have a set of grayscale. This is a warm gray set, and this is a neutral gray, and this is a cool gray set, and they get used a lot. The very light ones hardly, because you can't see anything, and the very dark ones also hardly, because then you're almost at black, which is killing. Don't try to use black ever, because that's the most black, in the sense that if you want to color an area in black, it will overpower anything. If you see this image here, it's probably like an 80% black. If you go blacker, you punch holes in your drawing.
Yeah, black is dangerous color, you know.
Yeah, it's very dangerous, very dangerous.
And you know, if you switch your camera, there is a difference between your style and my style. My style is this, only this.
Yeah,
you know,
but
there is a difference.
Nice. I mean, that's the very nice. It's the nice thing that people have different means of expression. It shouldn't be that everybody needs to do it one way or the other. It's very good to have different ways of expression.
Yes, actually. So our question is so much, but I don't want to bother you more than this time. And if you have recommendation for our students, and we have the students from Turkey, Iran, Indonesia, and also India, and another country I don't know. But if you have recommendation for the students or anyone to have an enthusiast about the art and artists, and who was followed or want to follow your sketches, your style, and wanted to repeat your style in his or her tasks. So what's your recommendation about that? Especially about the problems, you know, the students or the artists always make a mistake in there and tear the paper and throw it away. So they will be disappointment about the sketches and separate problem. You showed us your first prototype of your scale, your sketch, and also you said I qualified our works, and also have you any recommendation about this?
The one most important recommendation is don't stop. The one thing that you see, because people have a preconception, so they know something in their head, like, okay, I want to draw, and they have examples in their head, like, I want to draw like this person, or I want to draw like this person, and it has to look like this. Your first drawing will never look like that. I'm a master of making parallel comparisons, so comparing it to something completely different. I was once taking a walk with my wife outside, and we saw a mother and a child, and the child could not walk. And I said to my wife, imagine the child thinking, well, I see this walking thing is kind of important, so I'm going to give it one try. If I fall, I will never do it again. How many people would be able to walk if you don't allow it? The child doesn't care. It falls and it falls again, and it.
Absolutely.
Don't stop. I'll just when you say this, because my face is not that interesting. Don't stop, because these were the first ones. This is one of the models that you saw zip by, also on that with the dolls.
Yeah.
But here, this was one of my speakers, and there's my webcam. That webcam is still there. It's still standing there, and some smaller dolls. This is just stuff, and I didn't know what to do. But the one thing that I didn't do was be disappointed and stop, because I assumed this is my vacuum cleaner that was also in the corner. This was one that I did a lot of. This was not in 45 minutes. I did a lot of like, really, okay, I have to this, and I have to make all these arcs. And but then I already knew this is not something that I'm going to do a lot, because it takes too much time. But just do and repeat, and you learn from doing this all over again with new topics. You learn. Look here, look at that tree, straight through the building, and I didn't have an idea how to solve this.
You're bombing to say.
Yeah. But now I know how to solve this. I would leave out either the tree and just suggest that there's a tree there, which you can do perfectly fine. But I didn't know at that point. I learned because I didn't like the way this looked. And the next time, and one thing which I am doing right now in sketching or drawing or whatever, if this doesn't work out, there's always another page, a new page, a blank page. If you have here my most recent sketchbook, let's see, here's the bulldozer.
There's a process, you know, you pass the process from the first one to the last one, and there is a progress here. You
know what the progress is? The progress is building experience. And you cannot build experience by skipping the whole part in between the first drawing and the last drawing. You cannot skip that. You saw that in the 25 sketchbooks that I have. And today, this is a blank page. That's the next one coming up. So there's always a next page. So never be disappointed if something doesn't work. There's always a next page. I didn't like the very dark color here, and that's in my sketchbook number 26. I still make mistakes, but there's always a next page, a new drawing, and you learn. Every drawing makes you learn. It makes you see, like for that color, okay, I shouldn't do that anymore. So the next time you don't do that anymore. It's a learning process. So never, ever give up. Don't be disappointed, and just keep doing it. And that will also create your own signature, your own voice, the way you want to show things. And that's something that comes with time and lots of doing. There's no shortcut for that. There's no secrets. If you read these 3 magic spells, you will be able to draw very well. It's a hand skill. Let me switch back to myself. It's a hand skill. Even if it's in Photoshop and on a digital tablet, it's a hand skill. This needs to listen to what you think here, and they need to be very well synchronized, and that's something that you need to learn, and you cannot skip that part.
Yes, okay. There is a good explanation about the sketch process and also the recommendation. So if our audiences, if there is no problem about the continue time or anything else, you have questions or not, I will end this interview. And I'm so thankful. I appreciate to you from bottom of my heart. And thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you very much about this interview. I think this is so useful and for our audiences about the how is the one urban sketcher is grow up from the first sketch to the last sketch, and you show the better than everything that the progress of first one to the last one, And I also, you are one of my iconic character in urban sketching. You know that in the fantasy style. You know, I always said that this slogan, this technical sketches is my you know, my beliefs. I believe in technical ones, but your your artistic lines are so amazing. And I know you are a talentful guy. And I know about the training. Your style is hard to training, I think. If I'm wrong, tell me. About the training, your style is about the guy's talent and also the interesting about the sketches. Maybe the technical styles can be structured and framed to training. So how about your training? For the last questions, how do you train your style to the newcomers?
This style is just something that developed gradually. This has developed into the way that I represent things, and which I didn't know before that I would do it that way. Apart from this, of course, I have a training of 5 years at the Academy of Arts, but that's it's so long ago that I've forgotten. No, I didn't forget, but it was from 82 until 88. I was in art school at the Arts Academy. But also in my professional work, I am confronted with composition. I am confronted with perspective because I do a lot of 3D work. So subconsciously, I have a big database on how perspective is supposed to do. I don't let it dictate a sketch, because I can see, I can even see when things are going wrong. I can see it, but that's for the next image. And most of the time it doesn't interfere with my process. But I have a training in construction drawing, construction in the sense of to construct a drawing. But there's a place for that, and there's a place to leave that behind and try and make things your own. And it's that part which makes someone's, if you call it like that, someone's style. That's basically how that person has solved problems that every artist is confronted with. And this artist solves it in a way of leaving all the structure behind, or at least supposedly leaving structure behind, and other artists who try to really have the representation dictate a lot of how they will draw things, that it has to be really real, it has to be really precise. It depends on what you want to tell with the drawing.
Albert, we have 1 minute only to finish to our interview. Please, I send you my greeting and God bless Netherlands in coronavirus era. And so, if you have the last words, please tell us to our audiences.
No, yeah, last words would be: don't ever be discouraged, and draw a lot, because it's a really great form of expression, and it is a very good communicator.
So thank you very much, dear Albert. The Albert Kiefer from Netherlands, and thank you about your professional manner. We are so happy to have a nice guys like you in the world, and maybe one day we invite you to come in our country to have a workshop together, and we mixed your style and my style. There is a big something like the Mary Shelley, you know, the Frankenstein, you know, something like that. But it's amazing. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You're welcome, Hamid. Bye bye.
Thank you very much.